Oh, am I on? Am I on?
Can you hear us okay?
We had some mic troubles. Yeah. We did the whole first half of the presentation and found out no one could hear us.
Yeah. Well, like Susan said, we're here to talk to you all about early intervention and our experiences with that. Again, we are Kate and Amanda, dynamic duo. We're both autism moms, business owners, writers, and we are co-founders of the More Than Foundation. I live in Harrison County. I'm from Ohio. I have a 7-year-old son, Jackson, who has autism. I have a 5-year-old little girl, Monroe, who is typically developing, but is the best special needs sibling, in my opinion. I own a dance studio, so I am a dance teacher. I also am a master IEP coach and do educational advocacy work. And then I have a blog page called Jackson's Journey, Jackson's Voice, and that's sort of how Kate and I got connected. So.
And I'm Kate. I'm here from Minnesota, and I will say Ohio and Minnesota are very similar. So it really looks the same. No snow. I have 4 kids. I have Cooper, who will be 11 in 5 days, which is important to know. Sawyer is 8, Harbor is 3, and Winnie is 6 months old. And getting away was really hard. I ran to the plane in excitement, but I also felt guilt. So it's really good to be here. Cooper was diagnosed with autism at age 3, so I have been doing this. I consider myself a middle-of-the-road mom now. I'm not new. I'm not quite a veteran yet. I'm right in the middle. I'm still learning. And I wrote a book, Forever Boy. It's for sale for pre-sale right now. I'm going to read a little bit to you, and I hope that it resonates with you. It's a part about early intervention. And I have a Facebook page, Finding Cooper's Voice. We're going to share a video with you that's just going to be mortifying for me. It's my viral video, so I won't watch it or listen. So we're excited to do this.
Okay, so here's our boys.
Many years ago.
Yes. Jackson at 2.5. This was just about 6 months after diagnosis for us. And then Cooper at 18 months as a sailor. After receiving autism diagnosis, this was a quote from Kate's book that I really liked and wanted to share. You and your baby are destined for a world different than most. It will be hard at first. You will experience suffering, struggle, and sadness, but eventually you will overcome it and catch a glimpse of the unbelievable joy they bring to your world. You will come to understand, in fact, that you are the lucky one, but in the beginning, it will nearly break you. So Kate's going to read a little bit about early intervention experience.
So the way to Minnesota, which I think is pretty similar, is you have some thoughts, something's delayed with my child, you go to the doctor, they tell you you're crazy because you're a first-time mom and your kid's a boy. It's pretty common. So then we reached out to early intervention on our own. Like we had a number given to us, and in our state, that means that, and I don't know if it's the same here, that a very wonderful, delightful person comes into your home and plays with your child, and you clean your whole entire house for them coming, and you're very, very nervous, and then you ask if your house is the dirtiest. It's pretty much what you do. Because it was very stressful. I lost my page.
It's always the clean houses that say, I'm sorry, it's a bed.
Me. I'm like, girls, which our girls are here, don't go in our bedroom. There's laundry in there. They're like, yes, we have laundry too. I'm like, I know, but I didn't get it put away before you came.
I clean more for my therapist than I do for anybody else. Shortly after my second son was born, Cooper started early intervention, speech therapy and occupational therapy. He was finally 2 and could most definitely hear because we were told he was deaf, which is very common. So the doctor agreed it was time to start services. It was not necessarily how I planned to spend my maternity leave, but I was thankful that I didn't have to juggle work while managing 4 appointments a week. That's one of the hardest things if you're a working mom is you have this child diagnosed with something and there's so much stuff that has to happen outside your home or in your home, and how do you juggle it with work? I realize that I'm on the wrong part. So,
do you want me to ad-lib until you're ready?
Can you ad-lib?
Sure. So I think it's important talking about autism diagnosis, and our girls are here. They believed me when my doctor wouldn't. I begged my doctor for a diagnosis. At 12 months old, my son stopped talking. He stopped responding to his name. He wouldn't eat table food. He sat in front of the TV, and that was his life. And my doctor said, your child is not autistic. He doesn't flap his hands in front of his face. You're a first-time mom, and you are searching for a diagnosis. So when my doctor said no, our early intervention worker who's here said yes. And they are the reason that my son is where he is today, because we were able to get help.
Are you crying already?
Yes, I know. I'm the big 4 times in the last session. Pause, you go ahead.
Okay. The therapist would sit on the floor of our living room, pulling brightly colored toys out of her Mary Poppins-sized bag, hoping to find something that would interest him. Puzzles, blocks, balls, you name it. Her bag of tricks. But he didn't care. The television was behind her, off of course. He would scream for it, sometimes hitting her, sometimes hitting TV, sometimes hitting himself. I never knew what to do during their sessions. I always felt like the teacher looked at me to stop him, to make him cooperate, but that made no sense. I was looking to her for help and to tell me what to do. She was the expert. Each week, she tried the same things. I felt like the movie Groundhog's Day. She used a bubble wand to blow bubbles in front of Cooper's face, moving his hand to pop each one while encouraging him to say, pop. He would run away screaming as if the bubbles burned his skin. I would bring him back and we would try again. And I will tell you, I hate bubbles ever since. I hate bubbles. Each week, it was like the first time all over again. I started to dread the sessions. As parents, we're supposed to be amazed by all the things our children learn and know. But with Cooper, it felt like I was continuously being shown all the things my son could not do. I would ask his teacher questions, wanting to understand what she was seeing in my son, but she was tight-lipped. I learned later that the teachers who come into your home are not supposed to mention words like autism or ADHD, even if they see it. Instead, the data gathered has to go back to a supervisor, but I didn't know that, and I think that gave me a false sense of security. I felt sad after every session. Each week, the things my son could not do seemed to stack up. I hated seeing how hard everything was for him and the resulting behaviors. It just didn't make sense to me why he had to struggle so much just to do the things that all the other children take for granted. After a few months, I received a phone call from the director of the early intervention program. She felt it would be best if Cooper had a full-blown evaluation because his needs appeared to be greater than the in-home therapy they could accommodate. Their goal was to determine if Cooper qualified for preschool through the district, which was offered to children who needed extra help. I go on to say that in the way it was done back then is we had 8 sessions. Cooper only needed 1 to determine that he had autism, but it was 8 sessions, and it was missing work and going to school and him running through the halls and screaming and all the things he couldn't do. And I felt like I was slowly turning invisible, to be honest. I was drenched in sweat and I had my tennis shoes on and I was running and he wouldn't do any of the things. And it was like, after each session, I'm like, this is actually worse than I thought it was. I mean, it was so serious. And I'm not going to read it, I'll just tell you, when we went in for our first initial meeting with the whole district, I mean, it's you and a whole team of people, they actually had us take a vote if our son was autistic or not. And they wanted us to raise our hands, and we went around the table, and the occupational therapist said no, speech therapist said no, and then the director said yes, and it went around, and my husband and I were the deciding votes of whether or not he was autistic. And I talk about how I kicked him under the table because he had been so nonchalant this whole time. And I'm like, he better say no. He better say no. And he was like, his response was, well, saying he has autism get him more help, which that is true. It will get him more help. And he said yes. And I just was so angry and hurt that it came like that to us. Tell me what to do. I don't know what autism is. So that was a really big traumatic event in my life. And I don't think that's ever done. And I think when the school district reads that, there's going to be some uncomfortableness because it was really traumatic for us.
So at this point, we both have a diagnosis. The next is stages of accepting your child's diagnosis. And you all work with early intervention, so I would say that your families, Kate and I talked about this morning, are probably in these first 4, maybe 5, not 6. Acceptance comes way later. So denial, we talk about a lot. Our first appointment, the doctor told us that our son had autism. My husband didn't go to the appointment because I didn't need him there. That wasn't the diagnosis we were going to get. So I came home and we went over the paperwork and he said, but our pediatrician said he doesn't have autism. So maybe we're wrong. I'm like, you're right. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe he is wrong. 2 weeks later, we got in with another doctor. We didn't take any of our paperwork. Same thing. Autism, level 2. We couldn't be in denial anymore. 2 people had said it. But you spend time there.
Yep, and I'll say denial creeped in for me many times throughout those first couple of years. Cooper would have a really good day. He would have a really good week, and I would be like, he's fine. What are those people thinking? And there was no question he was autistic. There was none. But I was like, well, maybe it's not as severe as they're saying, or maybe it's not that big of a deal. This is no problem. And I even had denial creep in years later if I would hear about a new thing you could try, like remove dairy. your child will start talking. There's that one person that happened to, your neighborhood, your mailman's daughter's sister's aunt. They removed, dairy, and their kid was talking in full sentences. I mean, that was us. I did a lot of that stuff. So I think denial is really common, and I think it's less and less, but I still have some fleeting thoughts of that.
So once you get through the phases of denial, next is fear. And I would assume a lot of your families are here. Now what? We have this diagnosis. People aren't returning our phone calls. We don't know who to call. Now what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to plan for the rest of our life? This isn't what we thought was to happen. This is probably where a lot of your families are.
I was really afraid of autism. I had Googled it the day we got the diagnosis. We came home, and I had researched it and known, but that night after the diagnosis, I stayed up like all night, and I went on YouTube and I entered the words severe nonverbal autism, and the things that came up were just traumatic for me. Dark, grainy videos of kids in the corners, like hitting their heads, and you saw Cooper. He was the cutest thing ever. He looks like sunshine, and I was like, well, that's not him. So for a while there, I was just so afraid of even using the word. I don't want it associated with him because people think differently of him.
And after fear comes anger. And Kate and I talked about this morning too. We're not angry at our children. We're angry that the world is so hard. Why does everything have to be so hard? To get services, to get them where they need to be, to find time off, to do the therapy, for them just to go and be. You're angry that it's so hard and that it looks different than you had predicted for yourself and for your family.
Mm-hmm. We, before we had our baby, we talked about we're going to be a family who camps. We're going to live on the river and fish, and we had all these plans. We were going to be the cool parents, and kids weren't going to change us, which is a joke in itself. But we had all these plans, and Cooper couldn't do any of that. He still can't. He can't do any of that stuff. And so the way I describe it is, our world just got smaller and smaller, and the friends stopped calling and the invites stopped coming. And I was angry. I was angry at my best friend from high school going to Disney on Ice and not even thinking to invite us, knowing we can't come. But how dare she? Mm-hmm. So, the anger is a really common emotion, but it's also the heaviest. And I think it's the hardest one to carry. So working through that one's really important.
And then bargaining. We talked about that again this morning too. I think you did this more than I did. I sort of skipped this step, I think.
Yeah, I bargained. I would say to myself, like, God, if you can have my arm, you can have my right hand, just make my kid okay. Like, I will do anything. Like, what can I do? What can I bargain away to make him better, to make him talk? It didn't work. So that one went away.
And then the next is grief and isolation. And I had a therapist about a month ago that said to me, "You're grieving right now." I said, "I'm not grieving right now. I'm in a different phase of acceptance." I grieved already. Prom, marriage, all these things that you think are just going to be easy, the things that your children should just know, that we have to teach, that we have to coach, that we have to lay the foundation for. That was the grieving process for me, was letting go of easy and simple and figuring out that everything is going to take more time, more effort, more resources.
Grief is the one emotion on here I think that's not talked about, and it's very common among parents, and you may not even know that the parent is grieving, because how do you grieve this adorable kid that is standing right here, that is breathing, that is doing and living, but you're not grieving them. You're grieving, for me, it was, I've never heard I love you. My son's 11. He's never said I love you. I don't know what his favorite color is. I don't know what he wants to be when he grows up, if anything. There's grief in that. All the things that are given to kids for granted, we didn't get with Cooper. And there is very much grief, and I think it's so important to talk about because it's so unique, and it's not linear. So grief goes like this.
And really, the isolation sort of comes with, like you said, the invitations stop coming. There are friends that you just can't do things with anymore because it is too hard, and it's not setting your child up for success, and you understand that, but it's helping other people understand that you're still here. You just can't do all the things you did before. Mm-hmm. And then the last is acceptance, and we talked about this is a moving target. You accept that your child has autism, and then you accept that autism is forever. And then, it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. You're a lifelong caregiver, so it's working through these different phases of what autism looks like for your family. Acceptance is also not linear.
So when Cooper was, I think 4, we won a photo shoot for our family from a friend, or a woman I didn't know at the time. She's now a friend, but she had 2 kids with autism, and she gave away a photo shoot. She was a photographer, and we won. And she was the first person I ever talked to about my son's diagnosis. I still hadn't talked to anyone about it. And I said, how long did it take you to get to acceptance? Because she spoke with such ease about her 2 children and their lives and what they would get. And I'm like, how long did it take you? And she's like, 5 years. And I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, well, Cooper's 4. Oh my gosh, I only have 1 year left, right? And I'm like, it's not hard. And she's like, 5 years from diagnosis. And it was the most truthful advice I've ever heard. It took me until Cooper was 8, where I could be in the room with other 8-year-old boys that were talking and chatting and be like, fine, this is fine, this is okay. Acceptance, it takes time, and you can't rush it, and you can't fake it, and no one can get you there. So you got to get yourself grace as you work towards that one.
So as we talk to you all about early intervention experiences, we want to share with you what it looked like for us. Evaluations for services was sort of the first step. In-home services came next, and then transitioning out when the child turns 3. And I remember our Help Me Grow person calling as Jackson was turning 3, and she's like, can you fill out a survey about your experience, and what would you change? I'm like, don't take them away from me at 3. I need them forever. She's like, well, we can't. He has to go to school now. So transition was hard for us. Mm-hmm. So first is the evaluations for diagnosis and services. And this is a quote from your book too. I don't know if you want to read it or if you want me to read it.
Sure. The earlier we can help these kids, the better. Early intervention services are vital. Vital.
Yeah.
We know this to be true. The research shows us the sooner a child gets help, the better their future looks. Some professionals even refer to it as a window of time, a window that closes.
So sort of the steps for this were referral to early interventions for suspected disability or developmental delay. And we talked about with our last group that we didn't know what you were looking for. It was sort of a surprise. I knew we were referred for ADOS testing, but I was so overwhelmed I wasn't Googling what that was. So it's sort of helping prep your family so that you know the what and the why. Mm-hmm. We knew that something was going on. We knew something was different, but I was too overwhelmed to do the research myself.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say, I think I overcompensated for Cooper. I think there's a couple of things I'll tell you. I think I overcompensated with our early interventionist. I think that I was so manic, running around like a monkey, like trying to make him look like he was trying and participating, that it probably didn't really do all that good. I think I shouldn't have done that. I should have sat back, but it was my first kid and I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is our family, I'm going to try and word this correctly, like our family is like really bubbly and like fun and like loud. And I think that, I don't think anyone wanted to tell us that our son had autism. I think that's what happened. We live in rural Minnesota. It was like small town. Like no one wanted him to be autistic. And like, so I think it was a disservice actually. Like I needed someone to be like, okay, it's time to have a conversation now. But no one would do it. And I think it's because they didn't want to hurt our feelings. And that didn't do good.
Yeah. So a big part of this is testing and paperwork process from medical diagnosis to establish early intervention services, helping parents through the phases of acceptance. I mean, you're coming in and supporting the parents just as much as you're supporting the children. One of my first phone calls after our diagnosis appointment was to the early intervention girls. I'm like, this is what they said. Can you believe this? And I'm sure they're like, yeah, we know exactly what they said. But I needed somebody to answer the phone and listen. And then discussing what services and assistance are available for the families. It feels like even 6 years in, we're learning new things and new things and new things that if you're not calling the right person, you're not asking the right question, you don't really know. Or maybe you told us and we were too overwhelmed to listen. So just repeating that and trying to help us through that process is really important. Mm-hmm. So next is providing in-home supports. Parents will learn early on that it can feel challenging to overcome the barriers that come with raising an individual with a disability. Having someone involved that will help bring ideas, listen to their challenges, and connect the parents to resources is exactly what we're often searching for. Kate, you talk about the folder being slid across the table. That's often what we're given from a medical professional. Here's this folder. You can do with it what you want, and that's where it ends. Helping us process what that means, what other people are doing is really helpful because we're just searching for anything to grasp onto at that point in time.
I had that first bullet point is so important. I had a kindergarten teacher say to me one time, I wish we could have grief counseling or grief training. She said, saying to a parent that we suspect something is one of the hardest conversations we'll ever have, and we're not trained to do it. She's like, no one tells you how to have that conversation. The parents always cry, and it's because, it's our babies, and it's so hard to hear. And when a child is diagnosed with autism or any disability, you think it's just the child. That's what I thought. Like, we just have to help Cooper. It's the whole family. It's the mamas and the daddies and the siblings and the grandparents. It's everybody. So we're all going through, everything changes.
And I think another one, like inviting the parents into the session, we need empowered to learn and model and to do. We're watching all of you. We're taking your lead. Tell us we're part of the team. Remind us that we do this too, because we're overwhelmed. So giving us the push is very important, because we might not just do it on our own.
I used to say I have the only kid therapy doesn't work for. It's since been different. He's now more willing to participate, but there are sessions in early intervention were just him running around the house. I was bringing him out of the bedroom and he was going back in. I was bringing him in. He wouldn't do anything. And I think that we had a newer staff person. But I needed someone to tell me what to do. Like, I didn't know if I was coming or going or doing the right things. It was a hard, confusing time.
So after home support is done, we transition to school. Special needs families are told so many times to simply ask for help, and it isn't that simple. Parents are already tired, overwhelmed, overstretched. The transition to school services often feels complicated and uneasy. So transitioning from an IFSP to an IEP is like a language for parents. When you're writing an IFSP for a family, it's a group effort. It is a team process, and your parent is there from minute one. An IEP is the opposite. They're doing evaluations that parents don't even understand. They're doing them and what they're doing. And they're coming in and hearing a report on all the can'ts. It's emotionally exhausting. We need prepped for that. I wasn't prepared for that. And I'm not faulting anyone, but early intervention is gentle, and it is easy, and it is nice. School is hard and more clinical, and it's different. And I think it's a shock to the system when you switch from one to the other. Kate and I talked about this morning, helping parents understand the difference between medical diagnosis and educational diagnosis. This is huge in our autism kids.
I didn't know it was different until... Yeah, they don't always talk to each other, and we actually got both. Yeah, it was draining to have to do both. I wish it's hard. Yeah,
helping parents understand their rights and reminding them they are an important member of the team. I'm an IEP coach. This is what I do, so soapbox. Your data as a parent is just as important. Your questions are just as important. They're not reading you a document at face value. I thought that. You can ask questions. You can ask for changes. Your opinion matters. Parents need to know that. And I only say that because you guys are there right before this transition typically, and a lot of times you may get invited to these meetings. Placement and funding options. In Ohio, we have scholarship opportunities. We access the Ohio Autism Scholarship to send our child to a private school, and the John Peterson Scholarship as well. I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't know what those options were. I'm thankful now because our son is in an amazing school and doing amazingly well, but I didn't know that in the beginning. I didn't know what I should be looking for that.
And I'll say there is nothing more like a feeling of dread when, so school didn't work for Cooper. Cooper went to kindergarten and it didn't work. Like they didn't want him there, and we didn't want him there. And I was taken to Google. Autism school, Minnesota, what do I do? Where do I send him? And it was, I can't homeschool him, I work full time. But I think it's just so important to tell parents, it's not a one size fits all, education especially. So if this doesn't work, there are other options. Now it may feel like there's not, and it may take a lot of finagling to make it work, but don't be afraid, push to try those other options that may be better.
And I think, connecting parents with an IEP advocate or parent mentor or an IEP coach is an important thing for them to know. They do have rights. They do have someone that they can bring to their meeting just to help with that transition process, right? So we wanted to sort of just talk about things you can do right now. What can you do to help support our kiddos, help support caregivers, your coworkers, and other special needs siblings? Did you have one for kids? I can't remember who was doing which one.
Well, I think it just goes back to that it's the whole family on the whole. So
Yes.
it's like when we started, it was like just Cooper was the sole purpose of what they were doing there. But all of us were struggling, and like we would never, it was just such a confusing time that acknowledging that this is the whole family is such an important thing.
Well, and I think it's important we talk too. Some caregivers aren't able to do the things. They're not ready. They're not ready to be pushed. They're not ready to be involved in the sessions while you're there. Those kiddos need you twice as much. If their mom is not ready right now to sit down on the floor because it's just been too hard today, they need you twice as much. Mm-hmm. We said to the last group, you chose our children. You, out of any career in the world, want to work with our children, who are probably harder most days, mm-hmm. who come with a lot of challenges. They need you. We need you. That's the support for us. You come and we may unload. You're there just as much to help us as a resource and a vent person as you are to support our children.
When I brought Cooper to kindergarten, it was the first time a teacher ever said something nice about my son. She said to me, and he was 5 years old, and she said to me, parents of autism are lucky. And she went on to explain it. I wasn't ready to hear it. It's still probably hard to hear, but her sentiment was so beautiful. And it was the only time someone had said something nice about my kid. And before, I was always like walking on eggshells. Like, is he going to hit someone? Is he going to hurt someone? Are they going to quit? Are they going to leave? And I don't think it would have been that hard for someone to say, like, he's such a cutie, or, he's really good at stacking blocks, or it's weird to think that, because like I have a 3-year-old and that kid's complimented 1,000,000 times a day by strangers in preschool, and Cooper never was, and it was hard.
Mm-hmm. Assisting your coworkers, the communication piece is so important, from school to home, from home to school, from spouse to spouse, from you guys to each other. You need to support each other. We're all burnt out. We're all tired. The pandemic has been hard. I understand that. You have to communicate with each other, resources, what's working, what's not, new ideas, lean on each other. Mm-hmm. And then supports for special needs siblings. When the girls would come for therapy, my daughter would be so excited because she wanted to get right in there and show them and be involved. And because our focus was so much on Jackson, she needed someone too. And I think special needs siblings are so often just taken along because they have to be. Just giving them a few minutes is so important for them and the family as a whole.
My son Sawyer was 3 when he said, "Are people going to come here and see me too?" Like, he didn't understand. And that was really eye-opening for me that he didn't understand that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is the part. Okay, so this is to set the scene. I had a viral video. I didn't know it was going to be viral. So the day before this was filmed, I brought my husband and I brought our son to go see Elmo at the Mall of America, which you may have heard of. The Mall of America, and I worked at PBS, so we got like special treatment to go up and go on stage and see Elmo and smile and take a picture with him. And it was one of the worst days of my life. He kicked and screamed and flailed and hurt and ran. We couldn't get him out of there. We were trapped, essentially. Everyone was staring. And I came home and I had one of the worst nights of my life. I stayed up all night and I thought about what's going to happen after I die. What's going to happen after he dies? It was just, I went down I call it the rabbit hole. I was down. I was drinking wine. It was not good. And the next morning I got up and I went to work and I cried the whole way. And in my car, I filmed this video and I uploaded it to Facebook like I did with all kinds of other videos to my page, Finding Cooper's Voice. And I got a call that afternoon that I was viral and it had been viewed like 1,000,000 times within like that first day. And it was very scary because I felt really vulnerable that so many people, you're going to see how raw this is. And it went on that the Today Show shared it, and it grew up, blew, and that's why my page is the size I am and that I can do the work that I do. I want you to watch it, and then after I'll tell you if I still feel this way. But this is a mom in crisis. And I'm going to go hide.
Hi. Hello. Good morning. Monday day, dreary day. I want to talk about something that I think all my autism parents will understand. I want to talk about the last time, which is a funny phrase. You hear it a lot, like the last time you'll pick your child up, or the last time you'll nurse your child, or the last time they'll hold your hand. There is a last time in the world of special needs parenting that I don't think anyone else would get. There is the last time you think that this is going to be okay. What does that mean? Yesterday was a really rough day in our little autism world, and I couldn't sleep at all. Tried to take Ezekiel, my brain would just not shut off. And you know, Cooper lives in his own little world in our home, and he is safe, and he is happy, and he is healthy, and he is a complete joy. There are times when we have to leave that world, and we have to go and do things. And when we do, I plummet after. I try to adequately prepare myself. I think that I know what I'm doing. I got this. I take all the precautions. I prepare for autism. We prepare for World War III. We're ready. We go. And then you're standing waiting to meet Elmo, and you've told everyone. And you look to your left while holding your 65-pound flailing, screaming, head-hitting child, and you see all the parents in line holding their adorable babies, and you see them out of the corner of their eye whispering to their spouses. And I know that's human nature. I would stare too. There's no anger in this statement. And you realize that this is not okay. It's not. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, when Cooper was 2 and 3, we could fake it. We could fake it. My son has severe autism, and I cried the whole way to work today because somewhere in the last couple months, I switched from praying that he would be a doctor or a lawyer. And now I just know that we're praying for quality of life. And that is such a hard switch because you hate yourself for giving up hope. But it is the fact of the matter. He could be the one in the million, but he's not. And I know that his joy is supposed to be enough. And it is a lot of the times. Guys, it really is. The last night, I laid in bed and I thought about his funeral and if I'm gone. And what if no one goes? He's not gonna have anyone and you know, it's just really hard. And I'm not a religious person really, and I did the thing where I let my guard down and I talked to God and I said, I'll do anything if you just fix him or help him. But that doesn't do anything. It really doesn't. You know, for so long, I kept thinking, and I hid it, I kept thinking it was going to be okay. I kept thinking he was going to, I knew he would have some big career and I'm like, it's okay if he's a loner. It's okay if he's happy fixing bikes or working on trains. I don't care. I just want him to be happy. And most of the time, that is enough. I want you to know that. That's enough as a mom to know that he's truly happy. And as I talked to Cooper's dad last night, I told him, this isn't okay. And he's like, no, it's not. And he told me he's afraid of when he's 180 pounds and kicking us in line to see Elmo. I just feel like we're never going to be able to leave our home. The secret world of autism is unbelievable. And you want to know what I think about? I think about the ulcer that I'm getting. think about what this has done to my body, my stress level. I can't sleep. So I guess for any parents that are watching this that have typical kids, just, I'm going to go into work today, and half of my staff was at that Elmo thing, and I'm going to get those. I don't know how you do it, girl. You're so strong. And they mean well. And I guess I didn't know I had a choice. You just do what's given to you. You just keep going, you keep moving, and you keep fighting. And then I sat down last night after just a day of dysregulation and hitting and kicking, and I just thought about when I made that switch from being a blissful, happy parent to thinking about the future in a completely different light. It's brutal. It is been brutal. Hot mess. Okay, I'm gonna drive in. We're walking. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
I will emerge. So that was super raw, super vulnerable, and I wasn't expecting the world to see that in that light. I'm glad I did it because it changed my life, and I think it was really my start to acceptance, to be honest. This was my lowest point. I just did it publicly. Don't recommend that. And the thing is that we were in crisis, and we talked about this in the last presentation. And it's crisis, and then planning for right now, and then planning forever. That's the 3 steps. They're not the same distance or time, but I was in crisis 100%, and I'm not there anymore. And that video makes me feel queasy and icky, but I think a lot of parents are there, and it's important to talk about and not be shamed. And I'll tell you, Cooper now is 120 pounds, and we figured out his right education and his right meds, and we've put all of our supports in place, and he's doing wonderful. We still have a lot of struggles. We still can't really go places, but we figured out PCA care. So we figured things out, but the point is you have to get the mom from this to the next step.
So that's sort of what we wanted to talk about, is finding community is what really has helped us. Other moms are who know what we are going through. People who have done it before us. Those of you who are coming and are encouraging the moms to get up and get in the session and work because they need help. So, finding other parents who are going through what we're going through, that has changed my life, that has changed our lives. Having a team who pushes us and believes in us and sees the potential in our child, that has changed life. And really encouraging those to reach out to whatever family support they have, whether that be actual family or chosen family. They have to be honest with what their needs are with those who are around them. So this is my video, nothing like Kate's. But this was just sort of my letter to another mom who was struggling too. A letter to the struggling autism mama. I see you, and I feel your heartache. I understand that every single day is a back and forth balance of finding the joy and grieving the life you thought your child would have. Your days are now filled with therapy appointments, IEP meetings, arguments with insurance, and sleep deprivation. You are now leading a team of educators and therapists that you didn't sign up for or ask to be a part of. But you know it has to be done. Own your seat at that table. You are important. You'll find yourself in the depths of the internet late at night. Close out the window. You aren't going to find the answers you need there. Find a support group. Like-minded moms are much more helpful than Google. I remember the days of girls' nights, play dates, and family outings. All of those things are simply too difficult with our son's diagnosis, so our life has now shifted. Sadly, you'll have friendships that fade. You'll find moms along the way that share your journey, but won't be in your corner either. But I promise, even amidst a pandemic, the moms who were meant to walk with you and lift you up will find their way to you. I promise even on your worst days, your child is thankful that you're their mom, and your family is looking at you with pride in their eyes about how wonderfully you're doing. To answer your secret question, no, there isn't such a thing as too many cups of coffee when your child hasn't slept in several nights. You can drink more water later. I know that phrases like, he will eat when he's hungry, back in my day, and he'll sleep when he's tired, pain you to smile and nod through. Take my hand, lean in close and listen. You will make it through this, and you will show strength and grit that you never knew was in you. You will fight and you will fail, but you will learn a love that can only be felt and not explained. Your heart will burst with pride when successes come your way, and it will shatter into 1,000,000 pieces when you see your child being excluded. You will fall apart, and you will find your mama bear roar. This journey is tough on your emotions, so it's okay to go from one extreme to the other. Just make sure you don't stay there for too long. Just wait for that first I love you. It's a whole body feeling that will carry you through your hardest days. Whether it's a kiss, a touch of the cheek, a sign, or local approximation, your heart will know what they're saying, and it's almost too beautiful for this world. Your husband, if you're married, will feel left out or like you've given up. I want you to listen. Remember, he is your partner, and you'll need each other when you feel like the rest of this world doesn't understand being a new autism parent. Love him and tell him every single day. You have to lift each other up. It will get better. It will plateau, and you will have moments where you feel the air has been knocked out of your lungs, but that's only a brief phase. You only need one mom in your corner. You'll build your community over time, the one who checks in on you every morning, who acknowledges your hard and doesn't make it a competition, the parent who can truly say, I get it, who keeps your secrets safe and lifts your chin when your face is tear-streaked. She will find you along this journey so you don't feel so alone. And if you're really patient, you'll find a few more along the way. And just in case your corner is still waiting for your partner in crime, let me be the one to tell you, I see you, and you're doing an amazing job. I'm here for you, Mama. We will persevere. So this is sort of how I found Kate. We were both moms sharing our story on the internet. And there's so much power in finding other moms who are going through exactly what your families are going through, because I say to my husband all the time, no one would believe this if they didn't live our life. It's just, you know. So because Kate and I both are special needs moms, we wanted to support other special needs caregivers. We have both experienced caregiver burnout. We understand that the struggles. So together, we founded the More Than Foundation, and we are currently working towards providing support for other special needs caregivers through our More Than a Caregiver initiative, which will provide free telehealth counseling services to special needs caregivers so that they can get the support that they need.
Yeah, so I said this in the last presentation. We put our masks on last. So I haven't been to the dentist in years, and doctors, no, I don't have time. And I could definitely use some counseling. I think there's a lot going on here, and I think I could, but I could never find the time to do it. And we know that parents struggle to open their mail, they struggle to answer voicemails. They're plugging the holes in the ship right now because the ship is sinking. And they come to us in our support group and they say to us, I need help, you gotta help me. And we're like, what do? We can get a counselor to you through this computer. They will call you. It's easy, just answer the phone. And we're just trying to remove all the barriers to getting them help.
So through this, we saw the need for a foundation because we wanted to serve the special needs family as a whole. So after the caregiver, we are also doing More Than a Sibling. We just took applications for Sibling Scholarships. People were encouraged to nominate special needs siblings. We're giving away 3 scholarships to give them something for being awesome. Yeah. So whether that be a camp or an experience or whatever, but they are our children's best advocates and their first friends, and they are amazing. I'll do it again. So that was our next initiative. So that's all under the More Than Foundation. It is still in its baby steps, and we are working towards doing great things for special needs families. So
we have lots of ideas, more than a teacher, more than a diagnosis, which we're kind of, because we see so many supports ending at like 21 or 23, and we want to help those adults themselves get special things too. So we're like, what if we, sponsor 3 special needs adults to have a day at Disney or just something? I mean, so we hope to just grow.
Yeah, so 2022.
Yeah, it's our year.
So sort of just the last little piece here, Kate's mantra, whether she realizes it or not, I think, but when I hear find the joy, I think of you. It's just your thing. So if you want to go ahead and read your quote, 'cause I'll cry.
Yeah. Everyone has something hard in their life. They may not tell you, but they do. No one is spared. Ours just happens to be autism, and we don't choose it. Life doesn't work like that, but we do get to choose how we respond to it. And where that came from is I was carrying that anger and that sadness and that denial and all that stuff because I was fighting for services nonstop, and I couldn't leave my house, and we couldn't go to Disney on Ice, and I was angry. And I realized one day that I was missing Cooper's life. Was missing Sawyer's life, who was 6 at the time. I wasn't enjoying the things that I should be enjoying because I was mad that my son had autism. And I stopped. And I know that sounds silly, and I was like, I'm done. I am gonna enjoy something, anything. And every morning before my feet hit the ground, cheesy as it may sound, I think I'm gonna find something joyful today. And there will be times where Cooper will just have a no good, rotten day, and it'll be meltdown after meltdown, and it may take me a while, but the next day I'll be like, we tried, we did this. He held my hand, he touched my face, and it will be enough to carry me through to the next day. And it's so important to make that shift because I couldn't miss my whole life being angry.
So mine is because of the struggles we have all had, so much growth as people, and he has made each of us better for every lesson we've learned. Autism has made me thankful. There are things that I would have missed if my son didn't have autism. I am thankful for every word and every big moment and every interaction. Autism has made me thankful. So with that, does anyone have any questions? And while you think of those, if you have them, Kate read from her book, so if you want to.
Yeah, so I signed my deal with my publishing house to write this book, and then 2 days later, the world shut down for COVID. So I had 6 months to write it with 3 kids in the house while homeschooling and a husband who was just angry. And I wrote it, and it was the hardest thing I ever did. And the best thing I ever did. And it's for sale for pre-order. It comes out April 5th, and it's our story, but I really hope that it helps other parents not feel so alone, that all these feelings are normal and it's okay to feel them. And I hope it could be a resource for early interventionists and teachers and therapists to know what goes on at home, and that if it helps one person, that's always been my mantra for writing, which I reach a lot more now, but if I help one mom get up off the floor and not feel so sad, then I did it. And that's what I hope this does.
Questions? Anybody?
People were scared to ask in the last one, so Willie had to ask all the questions.
Yeah.
I'll ask a question about the table with your coffee fundraiser.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that and how to support you all? Oh, here we go.
So we partnered with a coffee roastery that is based here in Ohio, and it is the More Than a Caregiver blend, and the proceeds from that go back to the More Than Foundation to help us continue to fund these scholarships and these services and these counseling sessions to help special needs families.
And we have these really cute boxes for Christmas.
Yes.
And do you want to talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, so they're red festive boxes. Inside there's coffee. You get an exclusive More Than a Caregiver mug. They're packed with cute little paper and candy canes.
So a great gift. It would be a great gift. And 100% of the money that we get from Brick House goes to helping moms and siblings.
Do you have them out there for their boxes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know, I thought I started to go, but we had to get down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're so cute.
Yes.
Trying to raise money is hard. This is new to us.
And so to order those, we would do what? go to?
So you can go to brickhouseroastery.com or see us at our table. Either one. Yeah, Brickhouse Roastery is where they are.
Any other questions?
I've been doing this for a very long time, and we used to spend so much time in our early years of putting early intervention together on the grief process and working with families, and we in early years when we started working in early intervention, when we were building it, I was an infant stimulation teacher, so that's how early I go, even before it was mandated. But this is such a reminder of us to stay connected to families and to understand what journey you're on and what our role can be as we support you. And it is to stand beside you, and and without the judgment. We've had lots of stuff about judgment today and looking at and respecting differences, but I just appreciate, like I said, just hearing your stories and sharing your vision to make it better for families. So thank you for kind of bringing all this up that we've all learned and we all know, but they all have to keep remembering that when we walk in that house, what your journeys are like and how we can support you. Thank you.
Well, families are in crisis, and I don't know if we always think that. I was in crisis. I think, I felt like my marriage was falling apart because I only cared about autism, and I was struggling to keep my job because I spent all day making phone calls and sending emails. And I think a lot about where I live, there's a big Somali population and not a lot of English speakers, and they can't do the paperwork. They can't, and this is it's a big problem. They can't find a fax machine. They don't have internet at home. And I think about helping these families. We may look like we have it together now, but I'll tell you, at 4 a.m., we're not this chipper. So I think the word that I like to use is grace. I think we need a lot of grace. We need to give ourselves grace.
Beth wrote a note, and so I'm interpreting for her because her voice is gone. More than a grandparent. So many of us are grandparents, and our hearts break and at so many levels, and we want to be involved, we want to be helpful, so just always inviting the grandparents to be at the table as well.
My mom once said to me, and I didn't take it the right way at that time, but it's changed me now. She said, not only am I grieving my grandson, but I'm grieving my daughter. Let me cry a little bit. It got me. Because she was so, my mom just has a hard time coping, and it was just so hard for her to see us both grieve. Yeah.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your hearts. 29-year veteran mom. My oldest is 29, has autism. So in parents in my field, I still see this need. It breaks my heart how far we can come and yet how far behind we could fall in our work and forget where we're needed, what the needs are, and they continue to be those needs, and those needs continue to be met, especially by us as professionals. So thank you for sharing your stories.
You're welcome.
Should we do my makeup now? So I agree.
Still gets me. Yeah. Good.
Wait. What?
I'm the grandparent, yeah, but thank you for bringing how hard it is. It's so hard. I want to say nasty words about how hard it is. It's so hard. Thank you. Just thank you for the bottom of my heart.
Oh, you're welcome.
So hard.
Beth is a grandparent of a little one with autism, and that whole diagnosis process, we traveled that journey with her, and yes, it is very, very, very difficult.
Anybody else?
But there's joy.
There is joy.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments, questions? Wait, okay, hang on.
So this is the best thing I've done all day. It was nice that you were the last people of the day. This was worth looking forward to.
Good.
I will definitely be sharing these cards with some of the families I visit. And I wanted to share with you, one of my moms found a group on Facebook called Autism Inclusivity. And adults with autism post on there a lot. And she said she found it really reassuring and comforting to be able to hear these adults share their stories about what their childhood was like. And anyway, I just wanted to pass that on to you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here.